Hi everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started with our next talk. This is really working on the work is how I would describe it. So before we go into thinking about our project ideas, we wanted to take a moment as a team to also reflect on how to collaborate well. And again, make the work so that when we are in our coding sessions, that flows really well and we have a really supportive environment. I'm Kelsey Bisson. I'm a program manager working with ocean biology and biogeochemistry, which is led by Laura Lorenzoni. I think you'll get to meet her tomorrow, and she's fabulous, so I'm really excited for that for you. And I also wanted to credit Naomi Alterman, who is really the genius and brains behind a lot of these slides, if not all of them. And I attended her talk on this idea at a Hack Week that I attended a few years ago, and it really stuck with me. So we'll start there. Because I'm short, I'm going to try to talk out here so you can see me if you want, and then I'll just go back to the computer. So group work. We probably all have been in that middle school group project where somebody had to do all of the work because everyone else was feeling about it. And we might have mixed feelings about how that's gone in the past. Science is obviously extremely collaborative, and that's one of the joys about it, but that doesn't mean it's also a challenge. So while collaboration can be very beautiful, we probably also have firsthand experiences that it can be hard. And to illustrate this and simplify it a bit more, within a collaborative dynamic, there are times when we might be more pointy and we might be more soft. This is coming from a study that was done with these two shapes in particular, given the names Booba and Kiki. And they were chosen and sort of studied among many different people speaking different languages. And they found these implicit characterizations, I would guess, that booba is a more squishy type of a word that associated more with this image, and Kiki was more pointy. All that to say, we have a lot of inherent and implicit biases and unconscious biases that affect our relationships with others when we see them, both from our experiences and from the society that we live in. And that comes in collaboration. So I wanted to illustrate for me a Kiki, I guess, and a Booba. I chose this because this is the puffiest coat that I own, so I'm quite literally very soft. But when I play hockey, I try not to hold back because that's part of the sport. So there's a lot of more, I guess, aggressive type behavior there. But that's not, it's just a normal move there. I picked a good one, I think. Nothing that would get me in trouble. So here, it's also the concept that knowing that there's a problem and wanting to fix it is not always the best to say, okay, I want to treat others how I want to be treated. We've heard that as a golden rule. We've also maybe heard about the platinum rule to treat others how they want to be treated. All of that to say, it's important in these collaborative environments to think really what are the pieces mechanically and socially that would inhibit this type of collaboration. There's this fallacy, the Rumpelstiltskin fallacy, that again is just because you can accept the problem is real and it's hard doesn't mean the problem goes away. So in this context, collaboration is hard and accepting that it's hard. That's helpful for us as a first step to reflect that we know, I don't know how I would call this super high stakes, but it is to the extent that we have only 1 week together. We want to learn as much as we possibly can, and we are getting a lot of different types of experiences and coding techniques together, which can breed insecurity, and that isn't always the healthiest of environments, but it's science. So again, knowing about this fallacy doesn't make it easier, but then what are some things we can do, hacks, if you will, for if you're feeling more soft or pointy. One of the main things you can do to help is to take on a first-person plural perspective. So again, uniting a team dynamic by saying we instead of you. What this can look like is using these pronouns. Again, what a great team and what a great example, right? To really unite the team, even if it's something that is just one person. Again, this takes away like, you need to do that. You know, we need to think about blah, blah, blah. That really helps, again, build more of a sense of teamwork. So for example, you need to install scikit-learn with pip. Let's install. Again, it's this more collective, bring everyone together rather than singling somebody out or having them feel that they're on the outside. So again, another example, if you're talking about running code, when we run this code, we will get an error, especially when thinking about things that happen that we're not happy with, errors and issue messages that might come up. It's helpful to think about, again, the team dynamic. Another hack when you're feeling pointy is to working together and asking questions. So really approaching things with curiosity and doing so without making it seem like a PhD qualifying exam. And I've been guilty of this too. Sometimes when we're so excited about something, we also might be a bit critical because we're trained to, and that helps science. But in a team dynamic, having a kind curiosity will go a lot further than having a more condescending curiosity. So again, shifting the language off of a person into the subject matter that you're working with helps a lot with this. And taking back absolute, so never, always, things like that. Again, creating space for there to be the nuance that we know lives in science and in these kind of collaborations. Again, to be careful about making too many judgments, especially on something that is trivial. And people have different preferences on maybe how they speak or use code, and recognizing that there's not often one way to find a solution and honoring that. We're more likely to learn more by asking questions that would also help our work too. So thinking of it really as, you know, it's a two-way or multi-way street, however you want to view it, can help a lot. This is a nerdy one that I also love that you could think about as an analogy to install in your brain a Python callback that would continue to ask, how can I soften my approach when you're working in a team dynamic? So keep thinking about, again, how can we help build the conversation and build the team? Okay, so again, as I said, if you use you, it can come off sometimes a bit rough. So if you go to someone, do you even know what Python is? That is not the kindest way to approach things. You could also say, oh, tell me about this thing called Python. What is your experience working with it? Getting a sense for, you know, what team members have done before in Python and what they're interested in. Everyone here, you know, is selected here because there's a lot that you bring to the table. And we likely have different experiences with Python. That's not a problem. That's always a learning opportunity. So again, making something sound trivial where it's maybe not for somebody. Like, oh, you just have to do this, then blah, 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 you're fine. You know, rephrasing that, what would look like. There are a lot of resources to help with blank, or blank is a problem I know that we can tackle. Again, thinking about bringing the language back to the subject. So does that make sense for me comes down to tone, so I didn't make it red, because you could say, does that make sense in a way that's condescending, or like, oh, does that make sense? What do you think? So thinking about, again, the language that you're using, but also the way in which you're working with people to take a beat. And I hope that this is a class where we won't be super sleep deprived, but I know that often that is a trigger for sometimes bringing these things together when we're feeling stressed and under a time crunch. So it's another thing, if you know yourself, different hacks that you can do to make sure that you are, you know, at your best here with the group. Again, qualified arguments about things like X-array, it just sucks, man. You know, you got to use this instead. Taking a step back and saying, okay, I've had a lot of good experiences, but I'm worried about this for these reasons. These are examples. So another, you know, way to think about this is a gift culture, and you can imagine a perfectly wrapped gift or a bad one. But we're all here. We all have a lot to offer each other. These are all gifts, and viewing it in that framework that you're either giving a gift or receiving a gift, it's not transactional. So if you spend some time walking with a teammate through how to work through code, and maybe it's an hour, you know, I would hate for someone to think about it as I wasted an hour and I didn't get anything done. You know, you got a lot done, you exchanged your skills with somebody else, and you're bringing them up with you. Another way to think about this is the saying that a rising tide raises all boats, in a way. So by sharing everything that we know together, we're likely to make the team stronger all over. So some things that you can do also along these lines are, you know, identifying goals and having team members being really careful about, you know, sharing what they're into and what they want to get out of the week. We all have different goals out of this. Some are science, some are learning, you know, some might be also to meet new collaborators. And being honest about where you're starting with now and where you want to be come Thursday, or even after the hack week as projects continue, depending on how the groups want to go with things, that will help a lot. When I went to my first hack week, I had no experience with Python or Git, and I was extremely insecure about it. And I was also very open with the group that I was working with, and that really helped because I was able to not have expectations placed on me that were outsized for what I could contribute to the group, and it gave me a chance to really explore and learn Python in a setting that was so supportive that it actually is the reason why I now can code a little bit more than Python. I'm kidding, I'm better at it for sure than I was back then. So these are all things that, you know, come down to communication styles. This is how I would describe myself, slowly moving through, but then, you know, you get better with time. So being, again, honest, and I don't know why the running style like that is so bad. We can also think about this Flavor Flav quotes, the well-known quote by the philosopher Flavor Flav. to be a hype man for your team. So what that means is, getting everybody, quote unquote, out of their seats and dancing. We're going to be having fun with Python. This will be a great experience for everybody to think about things. And if someone does something that they're proud of, even if you knew how to do it when you were 4 years old, celebrating that with them can feel really good. And we have a tendency to just run through, especially if we're feeling impatient about our small successes. But taking a moment to be excited and celebrate and build that with your team will, again, create a lot of harmony, but then will lead to better science. I know we have a nerd night, so that would also be a great time for anyone. If any members of their team are participating, to show up and support them, go wild. So again, if it seems too minor, it's not. The psychology of learning new things means that inherently we will be very, very hard on ourselves, more likely to remember our mistakes. And so the more that our teammates can help celebrate our successes, the more we're likely to leave with a positive view of what we've been working on, which is critical to overcoming the more challenging obstacles as the work continues. Of course, experience is subjective. So there are as many experiences as there are people in this room, and more so because we all carry experiences with us that we've had in the past. So again, remembering that when working with people and keeping it in mind. So the experience that our teammates will have in working with us is really, unrelated to their perception of working with us. If you make mistakes, you are very likely to remember them more than your teammates. That's a negativity bias that exists within everyone, but I think has also been shown within trained scientists can be inflated because we look for critical errors in data. And we want to remember them so that we can, learn from them or whatever and be aware. But then we want to be careful we don't do that as much as possible to ourselves. So we all want everybody in this room to succeed. That's something to remember and to feel excited about. So when we're working through with these teams, again, using first person, plural, sharing and celebrating goals and communicating about what you'd like to get out of the week, and knowing that everyone's experience and brings different things to the table will be different. So the first step in a lot of these to go well is reflection. And so today and kind of throughout the week, I would love for everyone to think about, how your social presence in a group affects the work that gets done, and what you see as sort of your strengths that you're really excited about to bring to a group, as well as maybe some areas that you really like to learn. Maybe some take on leadership roles in certain places, or maybe you're a person who always takes on leadership and you want to practice being in more of a supportive role. Some of these different things are important to reflect on. And in addition to that, what agency do you have in, how you work given the presence of other people in the group? So this comes back also to experiences that you might have had in elementary school, middle school, whatever, within group projects. But again, thinking about the team that you have and what everyone brings to the table and honoring that. So today we're going to take the afternoon and really think about what sort of projects we want to work on. I'd love for everyone, and I know in the application people were considering what science they want to bring to the table. So I would love for everyone to think about what are your science goals for the week, or if you had to sum it up in one goal, what would that goal be? So on Thursday, you're leaving with a new understanding of, blank. Additional to that, what is your learning goal? This could be something related to coding. This could be something related to group work. There's a number of aspects there, but it's obviously going to be personal and different to everybody. But I'd love for you to take a moment to think about that.